Ooh, yikes. Yikes, yikes, yikes. What is going on, everybody? Welcome back into another Celtics Talk weekly post-game show. I am your host, Robbie Haytayan, joined with me our two co-hosts. You guys know him, Seamus Zarlingo and Griffin Aldrich. I believe Nick Franco is joining us shortly. We will see, is undetermined. But, guys, the Celtics, they drop game 3 of the first round of the Eastern Conference NBA playoffs. They still lead the series 2-1 against the Orlando Magic, with game 4 coming up this Sunday. Guys, it was a rough one, 95-93, a low-scoring affair. The Boston Celtics in that third quarter scoring a season-low 11 points, 11 of their 34 points coming in that third quarter. Orlando guys, we said this in game 2. This was going to be their biggest punch. They threw their biggest punch tonight, and it resulted in an Orlando Magic win. You know the drill here, guys. Our initial thoughts, reactions, and takeaways on one of the ugliest losses of the Joe Mazzulla Boston Celtics era.
I guess we could throw away the second half of the game against Oklahoma City for the third quarter of tonight's game. Tonight's game 3 against the Orlando Magic, the Boston Celtics. This is an inexcusable one, an absolutely inexcusable one. Up 10 points at halftime, 59-49, and it feels like at that point in the game, okay, yeah, the Magic, they're giving their effort, they're giving out their physicality, they're trying out there and making it tough on the Celtics. However, in that situation, when you're playing a Magic team who struggles to get over 100 points, and you have 59 points at half and you have a 10-point lead, if you're the Boston Celtics, how do you not pull out that game? How do you not pull out that game? And, well, I'll tell you how. 11 points in that third quarter from the Celtics. 11 points. That's insane. There's 12 minutes in a quarter. 12. They scored less than a point a minute with the shot selection in which they have, which was terrible tonight from the Celtics standpoint, in a lot of in many portions of tonight's game. However, Orlando, simply put, they won this basketball game playing the way they needed to play in order to win a basketball game against the Boston Celtics in this series. And if the Magic were going to win a game, this was the game in which they had to win. I mean, if not, the Celtics, they were going to go up 3-0, and that was just going to be the death sentence to the Magic. Now the Magic on Sunday have a chance to tie this series up 2-2. But how the Magic won this game, I mean, first we start out with this series, we think, well, okay, well, the Magic, they have to gain more opportunities than the Boston Celtics in order to actually win a game in the series. Well, tonight, the Magic shoot 83 shots to the Celtics 74. That's what we've been seeing all series long, is these low shot totals and attempts. And tonight, with the low attempts, 83-74, the Celtics, they take 9 less shots than the Magic on the night. That's exactly what the Magic need, exactly what the Magic want, and how they did that. The rebounding battle, 53-48, the Magic won the rebounding battle, and then it gets even worse when you look at the offensive rebounding. It was 15-8 in favor of the Magic, and the discrepancy was even bigger at one point in the game. Fast break points tonight, 18-11 in favor of the Magic, and then you just go to that awful third quarter. I mean, the Celtics have a 10-point lead going into the third quarter. They score only 11 points in the period, and they come out trailing by 3. And then obviously the fourth quarter happens, and the Celtics, they can't even reach 100 points on the night, and they succumb to the Orlando Magic. Now, this game, I gotta say, uh, it would have been nice, obviously, if the Celtics pulled out a win. Now the loss is gonna, enact some catastrophic views out in Celtics Nation, I would imagine, just because that's what happens every time the Celtics lose in the playoffs. But I will say there were some warts, there were some holes shown within the Celtics in this contest. I mean, Porzingis, he's been awful this entire series, just absolutely horrendous. Jaylen Brown exploded for 36 points last game. Down the stretch was hardly in the game. He was in and out of the game. It was really awkward, really weird. Obviously, Drew Holiday, he did not play tonight. That played a big factor for the Celtics at various points in this game. But then you have on the other side, if you're the Magic, for them, this is what the Celtics expected coming into Game 3. You have this Magic team with Paulo Banchero and Franz Wagner. They did most of the work tonight. 61 points 21 of 52, which is 40% from the field from Wagner and Boncaro. Rob, I believe you alluded to it last game where, those guys, those are the bulk. That's the bulk of the Orlando offense and the creation for Orlando. It's those two guys, they took 52 shots tonight out of Orlando's 83, just those two alone, and they were super effective with their time. But you just look at Orlando's role players, you could see Orlando, they were just playing with a different confidence, a much higher confidence within their building tonight. And they really got after the Celtics, especially in the second half there. Defensively, really mucked it up yet again. And these are just the type of games we're going to see out of the Magic, the low scoring, grinded out, physical games. We saw one yet again tonight. There was more physicality out on the floor. There's just as much physicality out there tonight as the first two games of this
Right.
series. And yet, you saw the Celtics. They just, in that second half, particularly that third quarter, that is inexcusable. The way the Celtics played in that third quarter, especially on the offensive end of the floor, I thought there were some remnants of what they did in January. It was a lot of shot chucking. It felt like the offense became a little hectic. The crowd, give credit to the Orlando crowd. They were really present in this ball game, especially in that second half, and you could tell it seemed like it was seeping under the Celtics' skin a little bit at times. Some of their possessions were a little rushed. Some of the shot selection just wasn't quite there. Some poor shot selection out of the Celtics, and I thought some of it was because of the hype behind the game, the crowd getting into the game, and the Celtics kind of speeding themselves up when they maybe needed to slow it down just a little bit. Now we know the Celtics, they want to play a little faster in this series just because of the complexity between them and Orlando. But in tonight's game, it just felt like the Celtics, they were not the ones to accomplish that. It was Orlando. The Orlando was playing at their own pace. Obviously, we played at a methodical pace tonight, the two teams in this game. However, you look at the transition numbers, 18 to 11 in favor of Orlando. And it just felt like
Right.
Boston, they weren't getting those consistent transition opportunities. They weren't creating turnovers as much as we've seen in the past, especially in this series. And not only were the Celtics not creating turnovers, they were committing turnovers themselves. 19 turnovers on the night. A little stat discrepancy, either 19 or 20 turnovers. Regardless, doesn't really matter. 19 or 20. That's a terrible number on the night, especially in a playoff game. And what I'm most disappointed about coming out of this contest is just all of the little things in which the Celtics did not hit on in this game whatsoever, especially in a playoff setting. All right, like this game tonight, regardless of where we're at in the series. Oh, we're up 2-0. We're gonna blow out the Magic. All right, we're gonna send them on home, send them fishing, wherever, whatever opinions exist about this series out there. This is the playoffs. It doesn't really matter. You're facing a 7 seed and 8 seed. It's the playoffs. You have to bring your best effort to the floor, especially on the road, especially in a game three. And I felt like the Celtics just didn't do that tonight. They didn't bring out their best effort. I didn't think there was an effort issue necessarily with the team. It's just the fact that they weren't focused on all the little details in which could have won them this game in the end, especially in that third quarter. If they were a little bit more on point on the offensive end of the floor, not turning the ball over, taking better shots, and then defensively coming up with a couple more stops, a couple more steals, a couple more transition opportunities, and then the rebounding battle as well, just hitting on that. Got to keep Orlando off the glass. That's been a theme of this series. The Celtics did not do that tonight, and you see in the end the way everything shaped out for the Celtics team, and the way things shaped out for the Magic. The Magic played how they wanted to play. This is how they needed to win a game in the series, and you look at it. I not surprised the Magic won this game tonight at the end. You're kind of surprised Celtics weren't able to overcome them at the conclusion of this ball game. But in terms of how both teams played, this was the blueprint for how the Magic needed to win a game in this series, and they accomplished it tonight. And now they make us look terrible. I mean, maybe not us, all of us in this chat, but me and Franco. We were saying, "Oh, sweep! Come on, Magic! They can't score over 100 points. Celtics, they can score at least 110 each game." Well, that happened the first two games tonight. Magic, the Orlando Magic, they still don't score over 100 points in this contest. However, the Celtics, they're 7 away from 100. Now it's five straight losses in Orlando for the Celtics. That makes game four quite a big game for the C's, knowing they haven't been able to win in that building in quite some time now. And if the Magic win that game, this series, it is completely flipped from where it was after game two. If the Magic come out on Sunday and play the way they did today and muck the game, they're going to try to muck the game up yet again. That 2-2 is a lot different than 3-1 at the end of the day. So that'll be a crucial game. And that's a game the Celtics certainly have to show up for after tonight's horrendous showing.
I want to say this. I apologize that I'm a highlighter right now. Just got out of my internship. Gotta mention that to everyone. But
Can I get a Coors? Can I get a Coors, Griffin? I want this Coors. I'm kidding. I actually hate Coors. I'm sorry. We're never getting a sponsorship deal with Coors. I'm not a Coors guy. I'm sorry. It tastes like water. It tastes like somebody mixed
I'm a
beer with
sucker
water.
for
Like I
Coors.
don't.
I'm a sucker for Coors. I won't lie.
That's fair. That's fair. No Coors
More
for
of a
you.
Griffin, you're
Budweiser
underage.
guy.
You have no comment on this issue.
I said that's fair, Seamus. No Coors for you.
No comment on that issue.
It's just Coors. It seems like a ballpark type of thing, Coors.
That's what
But
you say next
a nice
question.
Bud Light. I don't know the light beers. We're getting too far into beer right now. Light beers. I get why people like them, but they're just not for me.
Yeah, but ultimately, the Boston Celtics tonight were not a highlighter approved game. No, it was depressing. I mean, you look at the seeding and you look how dominant the Boston Celtics are, and you look at their team and championship experience. This was not a championship experience game. I mean, the Magic fought hard all night, and the difference is the Boston Celtics need to know what to do in this situation. And I feel like you guys already mentioned they were hucking up shots, looked very unorthodox, if that makes sense. They just looked very it was a rough one. It was ultimately a rough one for the Boston Celtics. And looking forward, it's one that Seamus, you already mentioned, is you need to go up 3-1 because if the series flips to 2-2, it's a different ballpark. This is a Magic team I didn't want to face because of that. But I ultimately predicted that the series was going to go to 5 games anyways. I think the Magic got in one, and this might have been that one game, but it's a little concerning. If Tatum wasn't still on the bench, if Tatum was on the bench, then I'd be like, okay, all right, I give it a little more. No Holiday, no Tatum, but Tatum back and your team, I expected the Boston Celtics to come out here and go 3-0 right now on the series. And so it hit me hard because I was expecting that. And as a Celtics fan, I wanted to see that happen because I've been talking smack with a Knicks fan saying, "Oh, you guys should. If you guys don't get it in 4, then it's embarrassing." But I thought at the end of the day it was going to be 5 games anyways. But it's one that you don't want to see happen. It's one where this is a game that could have been avoided. It could have been finished. That third quarter really sucked, but the Celtics had so many opportunities at the end to turn around. It was just blown out opportunities. I think really if they got their heads in the game and that Al Horford turned it around with that big 3, but after that, it was kind of like just missing opportunities. And there was a lot of foul trouble. Jaylen Brown having 5 fouls, having to sit at one point in the game and just being in foul trouble in such a late period of that game. I think it was like the 5 or 6 minute mark when they were in the bonus already. But it's one where it's tough because that's a lot of missed opportunities. Foul trouble really killed the Boston Celtics at the end of this game because you could have got some stops if the foul trouble wasn't there, and you could have got some possessions, and that could have flipped the script of the game completely. So I think ultimately in the late quarters, it was the foul trouble in that fourth quarter, but in the third, obviously, you saw if they would have turned it around and, even had a couple more points to add on to that 11, it would have been a complete different ball game as we only lost by 2 points. So I'm not hanging my head disappointed, but I think close ones hurt more than blowouts because blowouts, it's over with. And with this close one, it's like, we had the game. If we weren't in foul trouble, we could have got it. If we could have got more points in that third quarter and turned things around, we could have got this game. So that's what hurts me as a Boston Celtics fan. And I'm looking at this and I'm saying, all right, you guys got to go out on game 4 and you got to get a win. That's a must-win game because if you go 2-2 in the series, I'm a little nervous with Jason Tatum feeling shaky, Jaylen Brown feeling shaky, and Drew Holiday. If you could get that game 3 win, I'm going to feel a lot more comfortable. So I think as a Boston Celtics fan, and I don't know what your guys' opinion is, but I think game 3 is a must win for the Boston Celtics. But ultimately, rough game, but I see some positives and some negatives. I'm not gonna hang my head, but it was a rough game. It was a rough game. Rob, what about you?
It was, and it was the first time that we've seen this core in the playoffs kind of get punked. Those 3 losses we picked up last year in the playoffs, you kind of looked at it and you're like, Miami, they just hit 23s, and Cleveland, they hit 23s. Even if Boston kind of comes out there guns blazing, do you really have a chance at winning that? Same thing in game 4 of the finals against Dallas. Dallas came out and they came out hot. They didn't want their season to end. So you're kind of like, tonight you look at it and no, Boston kind of for the first time with this core lost a very winnable game in the playoffs. And it was very uncharacteristic of them. And on one hand, you have, it has been 20 games now of playoff games with this core. Something like this was bound to happen. And on the other hand, you just dropped what could have been a commanding 3-0 series lead over the Orlando Magic, and you just dropped the game. So my thoughts on the game were sloppy, uncharacteristic execution out of Boston that we've been accustomed to seeing from this team for the past 19 playoff games. From a personnel standpoint, the bench was putrid, absolutely putrid tonight. They got worked by Orlando. And I think that was a real problem. Pritchard only taking 2 shots. I mean, what are we doing? Jason Tatum, you scoring wise, you put up 36, you had a big night, but some of those turnovers, some of the shots you were taking was just uncharacteristic. Same goes for Jaylen Brown. He looked it was an uncharacteristic game for the Celtics. And from the Orlando Magic side of things, you just beat the Boston Celtics scoring 95 points. And credit to Orlando's defense. They made Boston extremely uncomfortable. And I think Boston, in that third quarter, they kept going to the high pick and roll, switch, Orlando was sitting there thinking, come at us. We'll switch. We're very comfortable switching everything right now. We're going to have you guys play isolation basketball. They were clogging the lane. They were getting active hands. It looked a little Miami Heat-esque. And from the Boston Celtics side of things, you have to know, okay, this isn't working. We have to steer away from this. Okay, we need to generate offense in a different source right now, whether it's running the fast break, whether it is off-ball movement, whether it is getting post-ups for a guy like Jaylen Brown or Jason Tatum, a couple easy attacks to the rim. We didn't really see that tonight. So, again, first time this Celtics team in the playoffs have really gotten punked. It will be an interesting game 4 to see what Boston comes out and how it looks, because this is a series now. If you were to ask me who's controlled it, Boston may be up 2-1, but there's a little bit of sense that Orlando has kind of controlled how this series has gone from a defensive, really just slugfest. And I think Boston needs to try to figure out just exactly on with this one day off, kind of how to swing that and get it back to where you really have full control of this series. And I know 2-1 with a very great opportunity for a game 4 to go up 3-1. You got to fly back to Boston anyway. You figured, we talked to Ryan Kamitsky. Kamitsky here said game 3 was the target game from Orlando in which he really could see them pulling it out. Orlando's a team that's, they're 44 wins, banged up, injured, kind of a weird 7 seed. So I'm not super upset the Celtics lose a game. I think it was how they lost this game that really kind of puts a question mark just a little bit, right? Because it's like they haven't lost like this before. So very interesting from that perspective.